Okay, so I've had a couple students this week asking about how to extract contour lines from a model. So I want to show you how to do that since I've done it a couple times this week. I figured it might be easier to just have this video online. So this is the site in Dorchester, and you can see we have a contour stepped model here. And if we go to our layers, we change it to rendered, you can see here we have the part of the site that we're extracting, and then we're going to actually create all new contour lines and then extrude those for use. And I'll show you at the end how to print them out using layouts to scale. So let's go ahead and start by just deleting all of these layers. And then I've got all of these other working layers here, and we're going to go ahead and just delete all the objects on those layers too. So we're starting fresh. And if you go to the city of Boston, it's bostonplans.org, you can actually download the 3D SketchUp files, and that's what we'll use to extract our data. So our site actually is on Columbia Point, and that's I6 and I7. So go ahead and download both of those. And once you have those files and you're in Rhino, you can type in import, and then we'll select the SketchUp for I6. Let that come in. And in Rhino, you can reactivate the last used tool by just hitting spacebar or enter. So I'm gonna hit spacebar, and we'll open up I7. Cool. So now we have the full SketchUp model in here, but it's too much data for what we need. So the first thing that we want to do, we'll go to top view here. The first thing that we want to do is just kind of like select our area of intervention, right? So we'll go to our working layer, and let's just create a rectangle. So we'll go up here to rectangle, go to 3-point, and I'm gonna create a rectangle here on my working layer. It kind of encompasses this area. I'm just gonna move it up a little bit, and that looks about right. You know, the site's right here. So we'll say like right there. And then since this is a mesh, we can't trim it with the trim tool. We have to use the mesh trim tool. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna put all these layers into this raw data folder so it's easy to turn on and off. And we'll turn off everything but our terrain. We'll select the rectangle, and we'll do a mesh trim. Just type in mesh trim. And then the object to trim, well, we want to trim away this part, and we want to trim away this part. We still have this seam here in the middle, and that's going to cause us some problems because they don't exactly match up perfectly. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to extract a point cloud. And we're going to go up to curve. We're going to go curve from objects and extract points. And that will give us the point cloud. If it gives you options, just select point cloud. It's less weight than all the individual vertices. And then we can actually turn off that terrain now. So now we have this point cloud. With this point cloud, I've got a layer called mesh patch now that we're going to put it on. We're going to type in mesh patch. That's going to create a surface from all of those points. So now we have a mesh again that's super clean, and we can turn that now into our actual quad remesh. If we were to take contours from this, it would be a bit segmented. It wouldn't be quite as smooth, our lines. So that's why we want to turn into a quad mesh, because it's going to smooth everything out. We're going to do a quad remesh, and we want to convert it to sub D. And then you also want to make sure that you have sub D corners checked. If you don't, then down here on our corners will be rounded like this, and we want them to be straight. So we're going to go to sub D corners. And I have a target edge here of 16, which is going to be, you know, our units are feet, so 16 feet, and that's plenty of resolution for what we're doing. So go ahead and hit apply. And then while that's selected, I'm just going to change the layer. Okay, so now I can turn off that point cloud, and I can turn off that mesh patch, and now we have, you can't really see it so well, but this is our terrain, okay? So next thing that we want to do with this is we need to extrude down the sides, because when we cut our contours, we actually want closed curves all the way through, and right now it would just give us a series of open curves, which we wouldn't really be able to extrude appropriately. So you need to select this edge loop all the way around here, and you can do that with Command and Shift on the Mac, or I think it's Control and Shift on the PC, and double click, and that'll give you the full edge loop. Or if you go to your sub D tools, you can select this select edge loop tool right here, and then double click on one of these edges, and that'll give us the full edge loop. So now that we have that selected, we can use the gumball, the dot in the center of the gumball here. It turns black when you hover over it. That'll let you extrude. So I'm just gonna pull it down, and I'm gonna go like 30 feet. That should be enough. If we go to our front view, now we can see, again, we can select that edge loop. And then we wanna normalize that in the Z direction. So anytime you have a square coming off of your gumball, that means that you can scale it. If it's at 0, you can't scale it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on that once, and we're gonna scale it and normalize it to 0. Now you can see that square is gone, which means that there's no difference between any of those edges. So that gives us a nice square to work with, which you'll see when we do our contours is going to be necessary. So I've got another layer here that I created called Contours from Sub D. And on this one now, let's create a bounding box. So type in bounding box. Output is curves, so that's cool. And then we're actually gonna make, let's go with this, Contours from Sub D right there. But now with that selected, we can type in contour. Our base point is down here, right? And it's in this direction, so in the Z direction here. So we're gonna click on that. And then our distance between contours is 1 foot. And then let that think for a second, or a couple seconds. There we go. Okay, so now we actually have, if we turn off our quad remesh sub D, get rid of this bounding box, now you can see we actually have all of these lines. They're all contour lines, and they're, you know, for each different part of it. So yeah, so anyways, we do have one funky one up here, and this is because of the way that it was interacting with the top of that mesh there, and I think we'll just probably get rid of that one. I don't think we're gonna need that one. Oh yeah, that was out in the water. That looks better. Okay, so here's our shoreline. So anyways, now we only need like this bottom one here. So the one next to that, that'll be our bottom curve. We can get rid of the rest of these. If you click and drag from right to left, then anything your marquee selection touches, it'll select. So we're gonna select all those and delete them. And now these are all of our contour lines that we're gonna use. But if we select it, you can see there's just like a ton of points, and we don't need that many points, right? So we can get rid of those points in 2 different ways. We'll select everything. Let's go up to our curve tools. The first one is fit. So fit will rebuild the curves based on a tolerance, so you can get rid of a lot of those points that are unnecessary. So my fitting tolerance is 2. We want to keep a 3-degree curve. We're going to delete the input, hit done. So now we can see there's far less points in each curve. It's like just the right amount that we need. We might have some on these edges still. Yeah, so there's some extra curves. These are redundant, control points. These are redundant control points. So to get rid of redundant control points, we're gonna type in simplify curve. And then if we select that now, you can see we only have the control points on the edges. So let's select all of them and hit simplify. Simplify curve. Okay, cool. So what next? Well, we just need to make sure that everything's a closed curve. If we select something and we go up to our command history, you can see one closed curve add to selection. But we know that, for example, this one I can see it's broken, so there might be a few broken ones. So we can actually use a command called select open curve. And then that shows us all of the curves that are open, right? So we see a piece here and all these ones highlighted in yellow. Let's isolate those. Type in isolate. Now each one of these are grouped into, you know, whatever Z height they are. So, and I see we have some small ones here too that we don't need. So let's first do, let's go ahead and select short curves. So select short curve. And minimum curve length, I've got it at 30 feet, that works. So like that selects now for us all of these little ones that are kind of extra that we don't need, we don't want. And then how do we put these guys together? Right, well, let's isolate this first. And then I'm gonna ungroup it. So now we have, all right, so that's one curve, and that's one curve also. So we want to see where these endpoints are on all these guys. There's a tool right up here under your curve tools that show ends, and you can type in ends, and that'll show it also. And that shows us where the ends are of all of our curves. So like if we scroll down here, we see, okay, well that's obviously open. So how do we close those? We're going to use a command called blend curve. Let's go up here, blend curve. And then if you have it for the blend start, just go to curve end instead of pick point. And then we can click near the ends of the curve. And then it brings up, you know, what our continuity is going to be. Position would be a straight line, right? And then tangency or curvature. Tangency is going to be what we want for all of these. And we're going to just join them as well. So that's going to make them one curve. And then let's do it again. Hit spacebar to activate it. All right, and now we see down here, we had a little bit of a weird thing going on. So I'm just going to escape out. If we go to, you can go to sub-object selection and turn on points, but I'm just going to, again, hold down Command and Shift and just drag over this edge here to select those and hit delete. Drag over this side. Also, yeah, that looks good. Okay, now blend curve, the end of this one to the end of this one. Cool, that works. And now if we select this curve, it's showing us as one closed curve. So let's go to the other one. So we see on this one, we've got a couple different pieces. Let's do the same thing. I want to select this guy and this guy. I'm going to select these guys. And I'm just going to, again, use Command and Shift at the same time to select any kind of extra points that are around these guys. Hit delete. Now we can see where our gaps are clearly. Let's go blend curve again. The ends. Okay. And this one. Okay. And this one. Okay. So you might have to do that. Let's type in show to see everything again. You might have to do that a couple times until you have all closed curves. So let's go again, select open curve. Oops, select open curve. And we just have these ones now. Let's isolate them. Type in isolate. And then we've got this one and this one. Let's look at the ends. And we're going to add this object to our ends also. So this first one here, let's select the object. I'm going to, oops. Need to ungroup these first so we can get down to them because they're grouped. Ungroup. Okay, and then this first one, you use that sub-object selection, Command and Shift, select right around that, delete, and then we can blend curve. Okay, cool. And then this next one here, same thing. Select this curve and this curve. Actually, let's select everything that's over here. And then sub-object selection, Command and Shift around that. Command and Shift around these ones. Oh. There we go. Let's delete that. And then this side, I can see a whole cluster of points there. Okay. And then blend curve. All right. Blend curve. Okay. So now, let's type in show to see everything again. So now, these should all be closed curves. If we went to select open curves, there it is at the bottom, select open curve. Now, nothing is added to the selection, so we know that these are all good now. Cool. All right, now that we know that all of these are closed curves, we can select them all. Let's make sure that our extrusions layer is active now. We'll create one, and then click on that black dot for the Z direction. We're gonna extrude it 1 foot. And now we have our stepped map. Let's turn off our contour lines. So there you go. And all of them are, you know, it all worked because they were closed curves, so it's easy to extrude. Cool. So if we were to go back and look at our terrain now, let's turn on rendering. You can see it really matches it. You can actually select these objects and change the display mode on them to ghosted, so we can see the original terrain in front of it, and now you can see. So it's like that parking lot dips down in the middle. Like if you've been to the site, you'll know that it really does do that. And obviously this is over in the water where the pier comes out, and yeah, you can see where it mounds up over here in the park area. Okay, cool. So that's all sorted. Now that we have our contours, let's just go back to our line work here. Go to our top view. So here's our line work for our contours. They're not a crazy amount of vertices. They're easy to edit and adjust if we wanted to, or add to. But how do we put this onto a sheet, you know, to print it out and to scale, right? So let's go to layouts down here at the bottom. I'm gonna go to layouts. And then right now I already have one sheet here called plan, but if you don't, you can just go right here to the new layout. And we'll call this site. And we're gonna make it, the size of it is going to be tabloid size, 11 by 17. Go apply. And there it's gonna put a new detail window in here. And in the layout view, there's two modes. There's this kind of page view mode. And then if we double click into the detail view, see, we can scroll it around. We're back in our model view, right? So I'm gonna double click to go back to the page mode, select the edge border, right, of the detail view, and I'm just gonna click on this edge. You grab the waffle, that's essentially gonna snap to wherever the point, you know, wherever you want that point to be. So let's snap that to the edge. And we'll select this point, snap it to this edge so that we're at the maximum bounds, basically. And then if we double click back in here, now we can actually scale it to whatever we want, right? We can zoom in and out. And you see here on the right-hand side, it says the layout is 1 inch equals how many feet? Well, if we want that, you know, 1 inch equals 64 feet, well then that's that right there, right? If we wanted it to be more zoomed in, 32 foot, right? Then that would be right there. So let's go back. 1 inch equals 64 feet. Or if we want a little more resolution, maybe we want 1 inch to equal 96 feet. And then this is really important over here where it says locked. This is gonna lock our ability to move that viewport around, right? We can still adjust the objects in there, but we can't change the view in there. So once you find a view that you like, go ahead and lock it so that you don't inadvertently scroll in or out, right? Now I'm gonna double click on it, and we're back to our page. And then if we wanna print it, you know, it's as simple as going to print, And then we don't want a raster file. We actually want go to Rhino PDF. And now we can do a vector output. And then, you know, you can do it in black and white if you want, or in display color. Or, you know, when you start using layouts more, there's an option for different print colors for everything, and you can change those, and that's when you'd use that. But this is really handy if you were to bring this PDF, you know, and you had multiple colors from all your layers, say you had contours in one color and building outlines in another color. And when you export it as a PDF with the display color and you bring that into Illustrator, you can easily select one of those objects and then select all similar color and then put them on their own layer in Illustrator. So it just makes it really easy. So I hope that helps, and I'll be sharing this video with everybody so that I won't have to explain it too many times. If you got any other questions, feel free to email me or hit me up through the Learning Resource Center. All right? Good luck, everyone.